Phil or Doreen that can't make.
It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. I'd like to call the Sutton Board of Selectmen meeting to order. Would everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next would be public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is anyone here for public forum? Next would be the Board of Selectmen minutes from January 8th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the Board of Selectmen minutes from January 8th, 2019 as presented.
Second?
The motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention, 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Thank you. Next on the agenda would be Doreen DeFazio, Green Community Update and MVP grant process. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, Doreen's a little under the weather and couldn't make it tonight. I'll leave it to her. I'll invite her at the next one of the next meetings as soon as she feels well enough. Ultimately, the Green Communities grant process, she's done a great job. She's closed out all of the Green Community projects from last year. And as of March, we'll be applying for a new Green Community grant application. So, and we typically find out, June or July over the summer period about that grant. So it's all good. The fact is we have been very effective at applying and getting an award in June and July and finishing the projects by December, which makes us eligible to apply in the following year. Year after year after year, and it wouldn't be possible without Doreen's help in doing this. So with the current staff, with Jen and myself, we just couldn't keep up with it. But having that dedicated person with the Green Communities grant puts us over the top with all of this. And we're approaching $1 million in Green Communities monies that we've received, which is really a great effort on the part of Doreen's. And the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, Doreen has planned. I've hired Doreen to oversee that project. The grant came with $15,000 to administer it. Some of that will go towards mapping and hiring CMRPC and so forth to get the mapping done. But sometimes CMRPC is hired as a consultant but we've got Doreen on staff. She has the hours. So she's interested in this, and we put her in that role for this grant. So she's leading the process. The first municipal MVP grant process starts February 6th, I think, which is a Thursday. I don't have a calendar in front of me. It's a Thursday afternoon.
It's the 31st.
No. February 7th and February 8th. February 7th from noon to 4, and the 8th from 9 to 11. So it's really, it's a lengthy process, but everything's included in it. So it's intensive, but at the end of that, we will be in a position to submit the application to the state and be able to receive additional grant funds from the state. So it's good news, but unfortunately, and I'm not giving it due justice without Doreen here.
Sure.
So we'll invite her in the future.
Next would be the capital plan, FY 2020. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you a twisted view of the capital plan. We put it in sideways, so if you're all tilting your heads, I'll understand why. I just say that so the public understands what's going on. The fact is, this year, we probably are having the largest capital plan that we have had since the initial capital plan back in 2007, when we borrowed for Shaw Farm, and we also put in like $1 million capital plan at the same time. You know, we've held the capital stabilization fund essentially harmless, using free cash over the last number of years. All the capital plans, if you look back, have been funded mainly through free cash. But you know, we had some major items, and we felt like the capital stabilization fund had grown to such a point where we could start utilizing it and not draw it down completely. So what we're doing is we are using free cash, $557,000 from free cash. We're using raise and appropriate, which is essentially new growth, $250,000, and we're borrowing $1.635 million from the capital stabilization fund. And the capital stabilization fund will go down. You know, right now it's probably $755,000 in that fund. It'll go down to about $200,000 at the lowest point. The following year it'll go up to $360,000, and the year after that it'll go up to $790,000 again. So it quickly recovers if we don't borrow any additional money from that plan. But the trick is to understand the timing of it, and you can use it, but you've got to let it replenish or you're going to kill it. You know, it's almost like the golden goose theory with interest and everything. So if you want, we can go through this list. It does seem like we don't have much on the agenda, so if you want, I can just go through it quickly.
Some of the bigger items, maybe? Yeah.
Sure. The vehicle replacement is, we do that. We didn't do it last year for the first time in a long time for the police department. This is 2 vehicles. They're probably SUVs, Ford Explorers. They're good in the snow. They don't make Ford Intercepts anymore, so we're really focused on these Ford Explorers with the Intercept engine. You know, they've reverted back to the Taurus body, but there's a number of issues with those, and also the 4-wheel drive is important with the weather that we have in Sutton in the Northeast.
I think that's consistent with a lot of other municipalities.
It is. You see a lot more SUVs, and they're fairly economical on gas, unlike the old days. So it's not a huge loss, and there's a resale value when we're done with them. So renovation of engine 3, that's down in Wilkinsonville neighborhood. We have a 1987 piece of apparatus that we are replacing. That was one of 3 pieces of apparatus that the town bought in 87, 88. And this is the last piece to be decommissioned. So it is, the price has gone up, obviously, but we are looking for a good vehicle. Matt made this as the worst case scenario as far as cost, but I appreciate understanding what the worst case scenario is as far as a budget standpoint. And, you know, we'll likely won't spend all that money, and it'll all go back into the capital stabilization fund because that's where we are borrowing it from.
Which, knowing Matt, that's how we attacked the last purchase, and,
Yep,
you know, it
yep,
was-
same
it was
with
a wonderful
engine
effort.
2.
Thank you, Chief.
Highway?
Highway, we're replacing dump 12, $210,000. You know, right now, the existing dump is only a snow piece because it's not all that reliable 24/7, how often it would be out on the road. So we save it and put it in the back of the garage for snow events. So a new vehicle will have another frontline piece to attack snow and ice. You know, the articles, you don't see the color, but the shaded color are all green projects. The schools were doing 2 hot water heaters in the ELC and the Early Learning Center. Both of those are at end of life, so they've been around for a long time. We are applying for a Green Communities grant for both of those. So if we have the luck that we have had in the past with Green Communities, we'll get funded for both of those. And we are also applying for a large chiller at the elementary school. That large chiller is more than $100,000. It's probably $250,000 to $300,000. But again, we're going to apply for Green Communities monies and hopefully make up the balance through that fund.
So you don't think the grant's gonna cover 100% of it, it looks like? But
For the chiller, yeah. You know, because it is a large item, and, you know, the Green Communities grant process has been a great asset to the town.
Sure.
And the fact is, you know, a lot of this equipment that we're having replaced, the boilers, the two boilers in both the elementary school and the Early Learning Center, were at end of life. And they needed to be replaced. The fact is we have this grant process that replaces it for us. This one is too big of an item. It's not a $80,000 to $100,000 boiler. It's $250,000 to $300,000, and that would take up more than an entire grant for that one item. So we figure the town will share in the cost if Green Communities shares as well. So we'll have to see how that all works out. Right now, John Kuchar has hired a designer, an engineer who also is a designer, to write the specifications and let us know what the cost would be, anticipated cost, and the amount that we would apply for in the grant and Green Communities.
So if for some reason we don't get the Green Communities grant, would we still go forward with these projects, or?
Probably wouldn't. It doesn't mean we won't go forward at a future time. They are towards the end of life, but they're still functioning. You know, I anticipate the hot water heaters will be picked. The chiller is a question mark. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable putting 250 or whatever it will cost into the capital plan at this point in time. We're going to make the best case, and if it doesn't get funded, then we'll have to put the chiller off until next year, and await the situation and talk to Green Communities and say, won't be funded in the future, or could it be funded, and just get their sense. If it needs to be replaced and it's dying, then we'll need to replace it, whether we have Green Communities help or not.
Now, would Green Communities consider partial funding?
Yeah, that's what this is, and I'm hoping they agree with this. You know, Doreen has had more contact with Kelly Brown, who's our Worcester area representative, and Doreen feels that Kelly Brown has indicated that, you know, put some money aside for this project, but we'll see what we can do on the Green Communities side. So,
And I know Doreen's efforts have been fantastic over the last couple of years. We've gotten pretty close to the maximum amount. given
whatever
the
we've
program,
applied
so,
for.
Yeah.
So we've been good, and a lot of it's, you know, Doreen's help in crafting and developing relationships with the Green Communities partners. So that's very helpful. So there's a lot in here. Repave Central Turnpike is another big one. The idea is to repave from sort of Uxbridge or a little bit further down, not quite as far as Fuller, out to 146. Whatever that $600,000 would give us. We are, you know, that is an estimate that Matt got. Matt Stencil received. So, you know, we haven't done the specs and all that detail work, but that is an estimate that we would be able to go out and get the design and move forward with it. That's really just the basics. It's not full-depth reconstruction. It's sort of a mill and overlay. There's not a lot of drainage in that whole strip. There are some swales and some other, not structures, but other ways of dealing with drainage along that route. But it's a pretty simple way, it's a pretty simple distance, if you will, on Central Turnpike to deal with, because there are no manholes or structures or anything else along that way.
Of course, that's the route, at least when I get reaction from people in public, you know, that's the one that we need to address, so.
Yeah, it's brutal.
That's definitely in need.
It's brutal. You know, you have cars pretty much driving in the other lane, on the other direction's lane, just to avoid potholes. And, you know, we try to fill those holes as quickly as they are found, but then, you know, a little bit of snow and rain and ice, and they're back again. So, you know, short of going through the whole thing, that's essentially the plan. There are a couple of other ones. The school replaced the elementary school rear egress. This is the stairway in the back of the elementary school that goes down. Unfortunately, the school department underestimated the amount that it would cost to do this. This is actually an estimate from a contractor what it would cost. Obviously, it would have to go out to bid, so it would be a competitive process, and hopefully we get a competitive price. But, you know, Roger threw a number at it and thought it was close, and John Kuchar helped him with it, and then they found out there was more to it than was initially looked for. Any questions on this? There's a lot here. Mr. Chairman?
No, I haven't got any. I think it's kind of forward and, something we can think about.
You know what is nice is that we are using a number of different financing tools to get this, and you know, the capital stabilization fund is a terrific tool that we have, and we'll draw it down to $200,000, but it'll quickly replenish itself. The free cash, the $557,000, that'll still leave us $1 million in free cash for next fiscal year. After we do some more, we set aside $200,000 for snow and ice, if we overspend, which I am assuming we will do this year. You know, we're thinking about creating a compensated absences fund through a special article at town meeting for all the sick leave buyback that we still have on the books. This compensated absences fund would be set aside, free cash appropriated, and whenever somebody retired, we could take it out of that account and not have to budget for it on an annual basis. So we do have some people that are coming up on retirement. Most recent, or the closest one is probably Dave Perry, the lieutenant. You know, the next year and a half, 2 years, when he goes, we will take that money out of that fund and be fine without having to worry about budgeting for that. But again, I feel it's a good plan with the $1 million remaining for next fiscal year.
I'll just open it up to the board if they have questions. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, there's a lot of money in the plan, and would you, I mean, you mentioned sort of around different elements of this question. You know, you mentioned that you've been purposely leaving the fund alone to let it grow for a period of time, but you have some sort of large dollar items. Would it be fair to say that you've been kind of deferring some of these things, like, you know, the new fire truck or new highway dump truck, until you reached a point where the fund was at a level that you felt comfortable dipping into it? Is that why they're sort of hitting with a lot of things at one time?
No, I wouldn't go that far. You know, we've had conversations with the fire chief, and he was aware of the timing of replacement of engine 3. You know, Tim, I think, put it on the capital stabilization fund for last fiscal year. So we've been anticipating that. You know, I pushed it off a year, but that's always been part of our long-term plan. What hasn't been part of our long-term plan is Central Turnpike. You know, that's $600,000. But with the roadway stabilization fund getting shot down at a previous town meeting, and that road still in miserable shape, we felt like we needed to do something about it. And if the town rejected that idea, then they might support the capital stabilization fund being utilized for a similar purpose to address a significant road issue.
And the free cash gave you some opportunity to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and then we were basically able to use free cash over a number of years to allow it to build up, and now to be able to deplete it slightly and allow it to build up in the future.
The only other comment, and, you know, we have an opportunity to talk about this from time to time, and this is a great opportunity to mention it again, but, you know, way back when we created the Capital Stabilization Fund and the funding mechanism that goes through it, this is precisely what the town was looking to do all those years ago, to be able to buy a fire truck or other big ticket items without having to borrow money through a debt over a debt exclusion, and raise your taxes to do it. So, you know, this is, how many years, Tim? This is kudos to,
11, 12 years.
yeah, so that's,
You know,
that's long-range planning, I think, right?
The dump truck, Truck 12, for years, we had funded that through Chapter 90.
Yeah,
Taking $200,000 away from road improvements to buy a piece of apparatus or a vehicle. And we've decided a few years ago, to not do that. All Chapter 90 money goes to road repair, and any capital items, any vehicles need to be purchased out of the capital plan.
this is just, you know, to the citizens of the town that voted for this is just payoff, is what I'd say.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jesse?
And if I could, in the past, when we bought a fire truck, we borrowed for 10 years.
Right.
Paid for it over 10 years within our budget. Or, you know, even if we didn't do a debt exclusion, we'll pay this off like we did the other one in 3 years.
3 years, right.
Yeah, that's huge.
So the savings realized on interest alone,
Mhm.
you know, allows us to purchase other apparatus.
Then it frees up borrowing to do something much sooner than what you had before, so.
And again, speaking of borrowing something that we needed, you know, it goes to Central Turnpike. You know, obviously, we've known about this. Last year, we presented the road plan, and voters were not in favor of it, but we knew it was there. And that's the thing, when residents get to see the capital plan at town meeting and all the items that are included, these are things that, you know, we knew that were gonna happen. These are items that break down, that wear down over time. I'm thinking like the smart boards in the school and, you know, vehicle replacement for the police department, so forth. These are not new items that we're adding to our inventory. Essentially, everything on here is maintenance of the services that we provide currently.
Exactly.
And ultimately, like in our own private lives, things break. And having the capital stabilization plan, I mean, I couldn't imagine what town meeting was like just years ago before this happened. You imagine the arguments that must have occurred. Oh, we're not gonna pay for a fire truck now. Well, we need to get a new fire truck. We have a vehicle that's gonna be coming off the road that was purchased in 1987. That is probably more expensive to try to repair
Yeah.
than the payment that we're gonna pay a little extra on interest for this. And, yeah, this is just the foresight that went into this. Everyone that was involved at the time who put this before the voters, you know, just well done, well done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to say thank you to Jim and to Tim for your efforts. They've not gone unnoticed, so thank you very much.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, it's just, it's my first time taking a look at this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's definitely something solid to put forward. And I think especially the Central Turnpike is absolutely needed. It's in really bad shape, as we all know, and I look forward to that moving forward. So right now, I just want to continue to look at it and ask some questions. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Jim, great with splitting it all up. A little bit for the highway, a little bit for the fire department, a little bit for our road needs and everything, and it's a way to go without having to raise taxes on a lot of things. So that's imperative, and that's why this system works so well, you know. One thing on the fire department truck, will there be like a committee?
No.
Or just
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, and Matt will work with the designers, and you know, we'll get a great fire truck. You know, Matt actually worked when he worked with, for IBA and speccing out these vehicles, large vehicles. So I have a lot of confidence in Matt. Engine 2 was terrific, a lot of different special items on that vehicle, and that was all specced out by Matt Belcito.
Very good, thank you. Next would be Jim again, Town Manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few updates for the board. Fire Department promotions. Adam McMahon, out of Station 3 in Sutton, was promoted to lieutenant around Christmas time. Adam joined the Sutton Fire Department in October of 1995 as a call firefighter. So we'd like to thank Adam for all his service to the town. Matt is also in the process of hiring a lieutenant for Station 1. A couple of great candidates for that position, and hopefully that individual gets selected within the next 30 days or so, and I'll keep you up to date on that. Spring schedule for elections and town meeting. You have a copy of that in your iPad. Town meeting will take place on Monday, May 13th, and the town election will be Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. And Munis MVP grant, the working group for MVP grant will be on Thursday, February 7th from noon to 4, and Friday, February 8th from 9 to 11. And the library grant, we were awarded a $10,000 grant from Osterman Family Foundation for Adulting 101 initiative, which offers life skill classes like home ec classes back in the day. But this will be in the spring newsletter for the library. The library has received over $30,000 in grants from the Family Osterman Foundation over the last 3 years. So kudos to them and a job well done. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the update, Jim. Certainly congratulations to Adam for his promotion. He's been with the department for a long time now. I suspect working for Chief Pelcito is a rewarding thing to do, but we certainly appreciate his service and look forward to a new lieutenant as well. And I think I'll just go right to the library grant. First of all, thank you to the Osterman Foundation for continuing to fund this kind of thing. Curious if, just generally speaking, if this kind of thing, this life skills classes thing sort of coordinates with the senior center or anything like that. But in any case, good for them for reaching out and getting the grant and applying it well. So more services for the community, it's a good thing. Thank you.
Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to second the congratulations to the new lieutenant. And I'll tell you this much, I would not want to be Chief Belcito having to hire a new lieutenant for Station 1. He's got a phenomenal family that works for him, his crew, and having to pick amongst those wonderful, volunteers and full-timers that we have, it's not going to be an easy choice. So, but I'm sure the chief will pick the right person.
Yeah.
I'm confident in him. Town elections, excellent. Can't wait till that happens. And fall town meeting. I'm assuming now that we're in the budget process, we'll start talking more about the articles that are going to be on the warrant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, and I'll do the preliminary budget presentation the second meeting in February. And then we'll start to talk about, one of the items that I didn't mention is the sewer project that we're planning from the villas up to the center of town. It's currently under design by the company doing the design, On-Site Engineering, and hopefully that process completes itself in time for Springtown meeting, and that'll we'll go for permitting and construction for a sewer line to come up to the center of town. So that's good news, but again, it's just waiting on the design to take place.
And will you have the architect or whatever come in and?
I will, yeah, they will do a full presentation before the board, and ultimately to the community to just get everybody knowledgeable about what we're planning on doing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have nothing at this time.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. also would like to echo congratulations to Adam in his promotion. And I just have a question about the Station 1 lieutenant. Is that filling a role that was vacant, or is that that new?
Yeah, one of the officers got promoted from lieutenant to captain, and that left the lieutenant's position vacant, and we are looking to fill that.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, and then as far as the library grant, it's I like to see programs like that. The library does a great job with the resources that it has, and I'm always excited to see what they bring, and for it's great for the kids and for families. So I think it's really good. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have nothing. Next would be announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable, and correspondence. Dave?
I just wanted to mention one thing, if I could, Mr. Chairman. You know, as we all know, it snowed last Sunday, and, in my opinion at least, non-expert, but this was a particularly difficult storm because of the cold and the sort of the way that the storm went. So I just wanted to, I'm sitting in my living room where it's nice and warm, watching the Patriots, and in the middle of the game, I see the yellow lights come out, with a town vehicle going by, trying to treat the roads. And so I don't know what time it was at that point, but my guess is that's the last thing that the crew really wanted to have to do, but they go out and do their jobs, and they do it professionally, and so I just wanted to give them a little appreciation for the work. Thank you.
Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple. The first, if I may, I'd just like to give mention to the fact that on January 9th, I attended the funeral for John Francis O'Rourke. He was a member of the Greatest Generation. He had fought in World War II, and Dave Carasiotis down at the Dudley Generin put together just a little quick bio. If I could, I'd like to just read into the minutes, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman. During World War II, John Francis O'Rourke served in the 42nd Rainbow Division, 222nd Infantry Regiment, pushing through France and Germany, and ultimately was part of the occupational forces in Austria. During the drive through Germany, the 42nd Rainbow Division liberated a major subcamp of the Dachau concentration camp. Also during the major offensive, John traversed through the German front lines to deliver a message of the impending attack to the U.S. troops in harm's way. For his actions, the Bronze Star was awarded. Also during the Battle of the Bulge, John was hit with shrapnel from a mortar round and earned him a Purple Heart Medal. After the war, John enlisted in the Naval Reserves and served until his retirement as a lieutenant commander. John served his country with honor and distinction, and of course everyone who was in attendance saluted him and wished him that he rest in peace. I'd also like to mention the fact that on Monday the 14th, I was invited by PAC 243, Arrow of Light, a division of the Boy Scouts, to help them out earn a government awareness badge. And I'll tell you, that PAC, they bombarded me with some really tough questions. But it was a lot of fun, and they were just interested in the goings of what happens in town hall. So I definitely appreciate all the questions and all the energy and excitement, and it was a good time. But I do have to warn the community. I did throw a question back to them, and I asked them what would be the one thing that they would want to see. They divided up into two troops. One of the troops suggested that we do all we can as a town to help the schools out with the water. We all know, there's been water issues over the past, and I know we're supporting it with new filters to make sure that, the water is good up at the school. So I definitely appreciate the fact that you have, I don't know, I think they were about 10 years old, being knowledgeable of the fact that this was an issue, and it was wonderful. But the other, and this is a warning to my friend Mary Krumzik, who sometimes watches our meetings, the other half suggested that in order for us to expand our tax base, that we kind of take possession of Millbury. They didn't exactly tell me how they wanted to do it, but they thought it would be good that we could get extra tax money, from the Millbury Mall. And again, I told them that sounds good, but of course, twice the town, twice the problems, twice the money. So it really wasn't a game changer. But again, I appreciated their creativity. And so thank you for all for inviting me to be involved. And last but not least, I spoke with Diane down at the senior center in regards to the food pantry, and she has a very short list. They need beef broth, hamburger helper, tuna helper, dish soap, spray 409, laundry detergent, Mandwich, and canned ham, be it Spam or just regular canned ham. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Jonathan?
I have nothing either.
And I don't, except for, I've been, other than the snow there now, taking a look at Marion's Camp, Goddard Lodge, within the last month or so, because the contractor there is winding down. But the porch has come out beautiful, and it's really gonna be nice for the people to see sometime, and it's all enclosed with the windows and the shutters and the fireplace, and all the stone from the fireplace was all from Sutton, everything right there on site. So it's a gem, and it's a work in progress. So I just wanted to mention that. And if we have nothing else, adjournment?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.